I don't know about that one. But what I wanted to talk about was this event that's going down in January. It's the Tekken World Tour Finals for 2023. This is going to be the last Tekken World Tour final event for Tekken 7. This is how they're going to close out the game. And what I wanted to talk about was what you guys can expect, just from like a viewing perspective, what you guys can expect and what you guys should be looking out for at that event. Now here's the thing is you got to understand, I'm a story guy. So I'm going to be looking at it from that perspective. But something that I want to point out too is it's not that I'm like a culture vulture. I think I typically naturally just go to where the hype is, and that's not me like gassing my own opinion. It's just like it's something like I'm drawn to that. And the reason why TWT to me is the best fighting game tour is because it just naturally has that. You can't create it. Man, the last month or two for this tour was full of a lot of drama and a lot of leaderboard shakeups. There were some people coming from out of nowhere, scooping spots and stuff like that. It was pretty crazy, and it was really, really fun to be a part of and watch unfold. If you guys don't know the format, typically the way this event works, obviously last year was a bit of a departure from the norm, but I think this year's going to be a return to form where it's 4 group stages. There are 19 qualified players from the leaderboard. There's going to be an LCQ the first day. The LCQ is sometimes some of the most fun of the event because it's all the killers from around the world who did not qualify, and they're all just going to be running into each other in that bracket there. Something to keep in mind though, economy in Asia is a little bit weak. I saw some people talking about, I think I saw Kokoma and Kudans talking about like he wants to come, but like the cost is so high right now. I can tell you for sure the yen is very weak too. I don't know how many Japanese or Korean players you should expect to see. LATAM as well. I'm not sure just because of visa issues and then just cost of travel to America, but just throwing out some names for you guys to pay attention to that you can look out for in the LCQ. Right off the bat, Shadow, Cuddlecore, Yu, Chanel, Sephi Black, Genghis Don, Pina from Japan, Azim, Ayo Richie, Mao Il, Tetsu, HK Jr. Kudans is a question mark. They're infested. There's probably a lot of names that you'll recognize from events that have been happening all year, but also events like ICFC. I'm sure FDX will be there. Fear, Ty, Tanvir, perhaps, who had a really big showing at the Tiger Uppercut, the last master event on the tour. But who's going to be coming from Pakistan? Who's going to be coming from Korea? Who's going to be coming from the Philippines? Is AK and Doja going to show up? It's hard to know, but you got to just show up on the day of. The LCQ goes by really quickly. It's a lot of matches like jumping from station to station like that. It's really fun to watch. And then the end, it caps off where the winner gets a spot in the final event for the next 2 days. So the LCQ is kind of, to me, some of the most intense and most fun Tekken that you're going to get to see this weekend. That said, what I want to talk about next is this guy. I feel like Atif is kind of like quiet, like personality-wise, like kind of reserved. But this is the defending Tekken World Tour champion for a reason. He is very strong, and I think for him, it's about like, you got to remember too, on the tour this year, just because of visa issues and just having a lot of difficulty trying to secure travel, he didn't even get to go to that many events, but the ones he went to, he scooped points, and man, Tiger Uppercut, he capped it off. He capped off the last master event on the tour with a big dub. That's ultimately what got him in, and yeah, he's back to defend his title. That's the big thing. So who can take down the big dog? Well, the other big dog is Arslan Ash. Once again, he's staring in the face this event, looking at it. You got to remember, Arslan won EVO Japan. He won EVO. Is this going to be the first and last only Tekken 7 Triple Crown winner? Can he pull it off? This is the thing with Arslan. He's won a lot of different events, but the one that's eluded him so far consistently is the Tekken World Tour Final. For Arslan Ash, I think it's about him. Can he cap off this game that pretty much, I think it's fair to say, changed his life, changed a lot of people's lives, changed his life for sure. This is the event that's eluded him. He wants it. He's motivated. Can he pull it off? Both of these players, a lot of, I think, spectators, you guys should have your eyes on them. But also a lot of the players in this tournament are going to have their eyes on them because they're consistent roadblocks for a lot of the players in this event. But the other guy is this one that I think everybody should have their eyes on, Knee. Knee, to me, and this is just how I think of it, is like, he's always kind of represented, especially like in the past 10 plus years, this force of nature in the game. It's usually him that forces other people to change how they look at the game, how they play, is the way I kind of look at it. But it's interesting now with the way that this has gone down with the other players that we just talked about. where it feels like Knee now is the one. It feels like he's the anime pro tag now. Like, how is he gonna change to overcome this? You know, just generally with the way the matchups has worked is like these guys have consistently been a roadblock for him, right? Arslan in particular, I think has had pretty good matchup with him overall. How does he change? And we're not used to seeing him put in that position at all. But that's also why it's hype. That's also why it's cool. I want to see what Knee is bringing to the table. Last time in 2019, I remember he came out with the Negan pick to be able to try to seal lows just using intimidation stance and stuff. He's always got an idea to pursue. What is Knee's response now? He's kind of in the hot seat where it's like this consistent challenge for you. In modern era, what is your response to that? This is his last chance to show that in Tekken 7. You know, obviously everyone's looking forward to Tekken 8, him especially. But for Tekken 7 to close it out, how does Knee end this saga with the Pakistani players? You know, we'll see. Another player to talk about, Cherryberry Mango. Cherryberry Mango, longtime Jin player, but of course, he switched it up big time this year and went to Noctis, character that a lot of players, I think, want to say, especially like online, have kind of written off. And he has showcased just how strong and kind of undervalued this character's toolkit is. And the thing is, this character has always had a strong player in some regions that have kind of showcased how good he can be, but the difference is CBM took him on the road and showed it with international success. He had a great year. He traveled a lot, had some really good performances, had a lot of close sets with this guy as well, Ulsan. Both of these players did really, really well on the road this year, and you got to imagine they want to cap off those performances with a really, really strong one at the final this year. Ulsan, of course, another player to be looking out for. Also kind of like a threat, you know, just to be able to kind of stand up to the Atifs, the Arslans, the Knees. I mean, this is the player that represented the next generation of Korean Tekken, and he's kind of coming to his own since the military duties post-COVID and lockdown era. But he's committed to getting back on the road, and he's been playing the past year, and he's really matured. He got second place at this event in 2019. Can he make something crazy happen this time? Can he get the dub this time? You know, that kind of thing. This is another player to look out for, especially Lohai. Lohai in particular has, he's EVO champion first of all, but between Steve, Brian, and Shaheen, this is one of the players who in the past has had good matchups against some of the story players that we've already talked about so far. He's definitely a big, I don't want to even say X Factor, he's just like, he's a bracket presence that you just, like, you cannot write him off until he's out of the tournament. And that's the other thing too. Lohai was not even in consideration for this final until like September. He wasn't even on the leaderboard. But that just shows you just how much of a force he can be. I want to say he rushed down like a bunch of events in the last like 6 to 7 to 8 weeks. And in that time, got a couple big wins, had a good performance again in Tiger Uppercut where he went up against Atif, and I want to say grand finals, right? That was a long set. This is a player who, again, against some of the players that we've already talked about, he's had like some favorable performances. He made a very late push to get into this event, and I'm worried now. I'm thinking like he's got some steam under him, you know, like he's got momentum. How's he gonna cap it off? We'll see. Another guy to look out for is John Ding. This is another player who, probably one of the more popular players. I think he's very, very well traveled. He's another bracket X Factor. He can play spoiler for a lot of players' paths. And if he's having a good weekend, he's somebody who can definitely like ruin some other people's weekends for sure. He's done well in tournament against some of the other players we have and will discuss later. But he's a pretty animated, you know, if you guys like the more animated characters like Eddie or Lucky Chloe, he's going to be the guy you want to watch for. His matches should be really fun for you. Next player that I want to bring up from Korea is Kokuma. Kokuma is also, he did a lot of traveling this year. He's generally, to me, consistent. He had a big win at Slash and Dash from earlier in UAE, but he's been representing Fang recently alongside Kunimitsu and Lydia. Kokuma is definitely another bracket presence that you have to kind of respect. He's someone in group stage who I think could obviously be a big threat. From Thailand, this is Book. Book is a Jin player, but that's kind of a misnomer. He plays a lot of other characters. I think he's recently gone back to Bay. He's had a character crisis the past few years, but he's posted really strong results at the beginning half of the tour this year. He really got a lot of his points in early. The big thing for him is, since Street Fighter 6 came out, he's been a little bit more distracted. His attention's been split a little bit more, but I have to imagine with the final coming up, he's going to be coming in with a full head of steam. So this is a player who's over the years has had really, really good matches with, of course, Knee, where he really like came onto the international scene and made a name for himself at Tiger Uppercut when he beat him at, was that 2018, I believe? He's like Ulsan, where it's like you're young, but they're a veteran, you know, more or less. And he's a player who, if he's having a good weekend and his mental is good, he can for sure blow some of the big bodies up. He has a history of being, again, that kind of guy in a bracket like that. Next person is Rangchu, former TWT champion. 2018, of course, he won that with Panda. However, more recently, he's been playing Julia over the past few years. He started the tour off with some strong performances at EVO Japan and Battle Arena Melbourne this year, but he just became a dad, and maybe that, again, that's something like higher motivation for him, right? And he's definitely made a stronger push training and just playing with the players out here in Japan. He has made some noticeable improvements over the past few years, especially against this guy, your other TWT champion from 2019. This is Chikarin from Japan. They call him the last samurai of effort. Doryoku, no, last samurai. This is a multiple character player. And something I noticed too, just going down this list, there is a lot of Jin in this. Maybe they don't all play Jin in this version of the game, but there's a lot of Jin player DNA in this leaderboard. I noticed like a third of these players all have a history playing Jin, and this guy's no exception. Look for him to be running Geese, Akuma, Leroy, Jin. He runs a lot of different characters, but those are probably the ones that you can expect to see the most. I think alongside Chikarin, he was, I want to say in years previous, Chikarin was probably one of the more, out of Japan, was one of the players that most people would say is the most consistent in Japan. But I think actually, especially in the past year, I think Ao, his other Japanese player counterpart here in this global leaderboard, Ao is, of course, another player who's really, really well traveled, and in the past year has kind of taken the spot as the most explosive and consistent player out here. He's an Elisa player at heart, but of course he has a history of running Miguel, Kunimitsu, Miguel on the side, but mostly Kunimitsu now. But he can play a lot of characters at a high level. I've seen him experimenting with Noctis, a few others. But you got to remember 2022. You know, this is another player who has a history of, I don't know how to say it. It's like last year, you got to remember, he probably stole the show the first day of the Tekken World Tour final last year. In group stage, he beats Chikarin. He beats Knee. He beats Arslan Ash back to back to back. He does not make it out of group stage. Think about that. He beat Knee, Arslan Ash, and Chikarin. He was the Grim Reaper. Day 2, he does not make it out of group stage. And you have to imagine, not have to imagine, he's definitely said it on camera before. He's like, that felt terrible. That felt terrible. Is this going to be his, is this the second opportunity for him to be able to try to make that push like that? We'll see. This is one of the Fang guys, Joka. This was, I think, Europe's, it's got to be player of the year, right? Like, especially in his time zones, in his region. Very, very, very good year. Very, very consistent performances in Europe, especially. And what I like about him, too, is he got on the road this year, too. He really, really committed to traveling and going into different time zones, trying to bully people with Fang, in other regions of the world. He had a very mature perspective on the value of that experience. And I think he's had a lot of growth the past few years. And he had with his big win at the mix-up earlier this year. That's kind of what catapulted him into that spot into that leaderboard spot with the point return. But he, like I said, he took traveling this year very seriously to make a push for trying to elevate his play. And I think you're seeing the results of it this year. This is an opportunity for him to put, like, again, that stamp on Tekken 7 for him. Finish strong. He had a really good year so far. Can you finish it, Joker? Right back at you with another Jin player. First, let's talk about Rafe, right? Rafe is a Saudi Arabian Jin player who, alongside Daniel Mato, they had some great performances at home, both of them, and on the road. But both of them kind of, in a similar way, they got their Tekken World Tour points on the leaderboard in very earlier in the first half of the calendar this year. Rafe, of course, had an awesome home field performance at Gamers 8 earlier this year, and had a very standout performance at the TWT final in 2022, where he emerged from group stage. He had some really good sets. I remember the Nobi set in particular. That's a player to watch out for sure. Daniel Mato as well from Italy. This is a player who, both of these guys really, but Daniel especially, is very well traveled. This dude is a student of the game, got out on the road, another Jin player. He was in Japan for months at a time, in Korea for a long time. He's all over Europe, he's all over everywhere. He just wanted to play Tekken. He just wanted to grind it out and play with the best. And his play definitely elevated in a lot of ways, I think, in the past few years. He had a win in Cote d'Ivoire earlier this year. That was his Challenger event win. The thing is with both of them, since then, they've kind of been a little bit more reserved on travel. So we kind of, I feel like, haven't seen them on the road since then. But we'll see how that works out when they go to New Orleans. But anyway, the Spaniard, Tibetano. He's a Spanish Gamryu player. This is another character specialist. Character you don't see as much at the highest levels of play, but Tibetano has been showing this character's merits at high level pretty much for a hot minute. And he kind of squeezed into the leaderboard with a big win in Puerto Rico at First Attack over some of America's finest at that event. But he's a character specialist, and the whole Spanish community, I feel like, dude, I feel like anytime this guy's on stream, the chat is just like, you can't type in there. It just goes crazy. He should be pretty fun to watch. It's in kind of like an X Factor maybe in group stage. Which brings me to the last from Europe, Super Akuma. Super Akuma, of course, French Akuma. Top finish this year was a second place finish at Versus Fighting. He is a passionate man who is, again, another Akuma specialist. And can and will highlight how deadly this character can be and what he can do, as he has been doing for years now. This is not his first rodeo, you know? He's used to this kind of stage, this kind of environment like this. This is, if you if you like watching the Akuma play, I like seeing the juxtaposition between like him and Atif and how players play against them differently. That brings us to the Americans, the round out this list. Joey Fury and Anakin, we can talk about both of them at the same time. Both have a history, Joey especially, but both of them have a history of being at this event and doing well at it. They're both cut from that Jack 7 DNA. Anakin mostly going to be running Jack. Joey more Marduk, I would think, but we'll see. He can always go to Jack, go to him in situations where he feels more comfortable. But the big thing is, for them, this is mostly going to be a home field event. And that sounds weird because Joey's from up north. But, I mean, the way this venue is going to feel, Anakin should feel very at home. And Anakin's the kind of player, too, where he can be hot cold, you know? And the thing is, if he's feeling good, if he's comfortable, and it's that weekend, he can beat anybody. So I'm thinking like, shit, this thing's in New Orleans. That's not even that far from Atlanta. This is basically a home tournament for him. You know, this is as good as he could want it. Favorable conditions for both of them, honestly. It's really interesting to see how they end up playing out in group stages in particular at this event. Their perspectives on competition I really like. Joey in particular, when the way he talks about competing, his mentality about situations in the game, the way he processes like the flow of the match is something that I kind of take to heart. It resonates with me. Anakin, on the other hand, Jack 7, to me, if I had to sum up something for you to look at with him, his sense of timing to me is the biggest thing. He just has this ability where he just knows what you want to press when you want to press it, or where you want to move when you want to move, and he leverages it in a way to where it can be very, very imposing if you've never played against a player that is good at that. So with that, I guess that's gonna round up all the players who were qualified. This is just a quick rundown just to give you guys something to like work off of. I want to encourage more people to watch it. You can make the event more fun for yourself because this is one of the more fun final events in fighting games, especially amongst the tours. And you'll see for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of like cool little things about the TWT final that you'll see. You'll see why. You can make the event more fun for yourself even if you don't play Tekken, even if you don't watch a lot of Tekken. Pick a player of a character and just follow their path in the tournament. Oh, this player's from your region. You live in France or Spain or something like that. Follow, Tibetano, or follow Super Akuma's path in the tournament. You'll make it more fun for yourself. Really, this event should be really fun to watch. I think you guys should really look forward to it. I just wanted to kind of put out what I'm thinking going into it and kind of what I'm looking at. There's kind of this spotlight, I think, right now on Atif, Arslan Ash, and me, and I think more people should be talking about the event as a whole, because every other player that we've talked about too, they're all gunning for those guys as much as anybody else. So with that said, I'll see you guys there, and hopefully you guys will enjoy watching it or attending it, because I think this is going to be really fun.